there, I'm Rex King. Welcome back to another episode of From the Archive. Today we're talking about Blackjack the movie. So Blackjack the movie was released back in 1996. It was directed by Osamu Dezaki and is based off the popular manga of the same name that was made by legendary manga creator Osamu Tezuka. It's one of Tezuka's longest running properties. It even has several OVAs and several series about it. So why are we talking about the movie? Well, we're talking about the movie because it's probably the easiest accessible Blackjack property out there. You can stream it on Freevee and Peacock for free, and it's available readily from Discotek. So, as such, this is probably going to be the introduction for many people to Blackjack. As such, I wanted to evaluate and see if it's a worthy introduction to such a legendary character. With that being said, let's talk about Blackjack the movie. So Blackjack the movie follows Blackjack. For those of you who don't know, he's a legendary surgeon who appears at operating rooms performing miracle surgeries, all without a medical license. As such, he charges absurd prices for his work and is willing to do work for anyone who's hires him for the right price. But he always has a pretty decent moral compass as well. This gets tested when a race of superhumans emerges out of the blue, and they end up getting sick. Almost all of them do. And Blackjack gets intertwined in this conspiracy as the sickness they're experiencing is very similar to the sickness of a patient he had who died in his care, and he wants to figure out what's going on. This is all connected to the woman behind the project, Jo Carol Brain, who brings Blackjack on to bring an end to this crisis, but she seems to have ulterior motives. So this film is a discussion of transhumanism. What that means is basically the idea of using science and technological advancement to jumpstart humanity to the next stage of evolution. This film's pretty much about what that costs and what that actually means. Blackjack, who's against human experimentation at all times, is the voice of reason, the one who's like, we need to take things slowly. We should not do human experimentation, and we should not be playing God. Jo Carol Brain is the opposite of that argument, who believes that any type of human advancement is worth the risk. So these are two arguments, and the film does clearly take Blackjack's side, and I really enjoy when this film is focusing on this philosophical argument between these two characters. What I don't like is the overall execution of the story. There are certain times where I feel like the story takes a complete lull and forgets about what the film's trying to do and what the film is actually about. There are a lot of scenes where Pinocchio, who's Blackjack's adopted daughter-assistant, who gets kind of, sort of abducted by Jo Carol Brain to force Blackjack to work with them. There's a bunch of scenes where she's basically just on vacation, and it doesn't add anything to the film, and you could have cut them out entirely and made for a much smoother running movie overall. Furthermore, there are certain times where characters make really questionable decisions, and it doesn't feel like they should be making those types of decisions. I'm going to be going into some spoiler territory here, so if you want to go into this movie completely blind, you've been warned. So Jo Carol Brain at one point decides to poison herself and Blackjack, even though she still has Pinocchio as a hostage. There is absolutely no reason she had to do that. I'm not really sure why she thought that was the right move, and as such, it puts a giant clock for Blackjack and her to find a cure for this, and she doesn't even work with him to do that. She goes off and has fun with Pinocchio. Well, she's dying. These are weird decision-making skills. Now, it turns out that these superhumans have gotten these amazing skills for both sports and arts via some experimentation that Jo Carol Brain did on them because she found some spore in a desert that she then purified and put in these people, which gave them superhuman abilities. Yeah, the science is kind of questionable here. They try to explain it, sort of. Um, but to be honest, it didn't hurt my overall enjoyment of the movie. What did is the really weird ending where the film decides to ditch its philosophical argument between Blackjack and Joel Carol Brain's points of view and decides to just shoehorn in an environmental message that feels straight out of Captain Planet. I'm not really sure why they decided to do that. And it really feels like a betrayal to the film overall. The characters are pretty good. If this is your first introduction to these characters, Blackjack and Pinocchio, you'll be able to come to understand their relationships and their personalities through the film quite well. The only addition to the film is Joel Carol Brain, who's not really in the rest of the other stories and is exclusively made for the movie. And as a character, she is also interesting. Someone who's basically proof of scientific advancement, producing a quote unquote superior human, and her trying to live up to that expectation, as she was a test tube baby and put through a grueling process to determine who her father's heir would be. It really is an interesting story. It's just a shame that it's told to us while the character is shot and should be dead. Like, she is shot 5 times and just tells us her entire backstory out of the blue. The film could have, just had her life flash before her eyes, and that would have probably made this entire scene better and would have gotten the point across. The overall visual style is also quite good. I love the animation for the most part, though there is one tiny issue. So Dezuki is known for putting these watercolor still frames in his films to convey a tone. And sometimes in this movie, it works beautifully. Other times, it gets a little ridiculous, and I'm not quite sure why they did it. I get that it's a money-saving technique, but God, is there way too many in this movie for that. The vocalization is also quite good. All the voice actors are doing amazing work. And honestly, the music isn't bad either. Overall, Blackjack the movie is a decent film. It's also a decent introduction to the character. If you haven't seen any Blackjack properties or read any Blackjack properties and you want to use this as your starting off point, yeah, it could work. I would personally seek out the manga, but this is not a bad introduction to the character and the universe that he's in overall. That being said, there is a lot of problems in the movie, and with the still frames, the really confusing handling of the story, and characters just speaking out their motivations out of nowhere, it really does feel like it was kind of rushed almost, and really feels like it needed another draft or so. So with that being said, I would recommend streaming this one. I would not recommend buying it, especially considering that the Discotek Blu-ray, which is, as far as I know, the only way to get this movie, only comes with trailers and promotional videos, so it's really not worth the buy. But that's my opinion. If you've seen Blackjack the movie, what do you think about it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And next time, we'll be taking a look at Life of the Party. See you then.